Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, where the legal industry gets real. I'm your host, Etta Rosa, legal consultant, speaker, and founder of Etta Rosa LLC and the Limitless Paralegal Academy. This isn't your stuffy legal studies school lecture. We're talking mindset, money, modern workflows, and how to build a career and a life you don't need a vacation from. Let's cut the fluff, raise the bar, and change the game one conversation at a time. If you like what you hear, feel free to share and send us your feedback. Now let's talk paralegal. This episode is about rethinking how legal professionals find support and how we empower ourselves through smarter systems and informed choices. I'm joined by Stacey Lake, founder of Lawfecta, to talk about disrupting outdated models, embracing flexibility, and building legal support that actually works for the modern world. This conversation is for anyone ready to stop doing things the old way and start building something better. Listen in for more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Today, I have a fellow, what I like to call limitless paralegal. And I actually found her on LinkedIn, of course, because you all know I'm a LinkedIn fan. I love LinkedIn. We do a lot of things through LinkedIn. And I was so happy to have her come across my platform and see her what she's doing in her journey that I wanted to share it and bring it on the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Her name is Stacey, and if you haven't heard of Stacey or Lawfecta, well, here's your chance. We'll have the links and everything in the description, but before we get into everything that she's up to, let's talk to Stacey about her, who she is, and really what led her to where she's at today. So Stacey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to speak to my fellow paralegals because I think it's so important for all of us to network and get to know each other and create a culture of collaborative. And so a little bit about me is I am the owner and founder of Lawfecta, which is an online talent marketplace. I do say if you've ever used Upwork, it's Upwork on crack for legal professionals, and it is completely just for us. But I've been in legal since 2006, and I think a lot of people look at me and don't understand my background, but I really am a rags to riches type of person. Um, I grew up in a very chaotic household with um, as a welfare child. And so I have a very unique look when it comes to certain aspects of tech and what we're doing and who we help with what we do in legal. And so I started in law in 2006 when I was 16. And I started as a receptionist. I know I started as a receptionist and file clerk. And I started in a law firm because I knew very early on I wanted to be an attorney. And so I knew that with my past, I had a lot stacked against me to go to a top university and all these things. So I started in law to really understand, get that background experience, and meet people who maybe I can connect with and then move forward in my career. But I learned very quickly I didn't want to be an attorney once I joined a law firm. And the reason being is back then I had little to no self-confidence as a person. I had no self-esteem. And seeing attorneys, I worked at a family law firm, seeing the attorney go in court in front of people was my absolute nightmare. That just wasn't going to happen for me. And so, but working in the firm, I met the paralegals, and that was where I said I could do this, and I could do this forever. So, I went to school, got my certificate in paralegal in 2009. Since then, just been working at various small law firms. But I'm from Southern California, and so from a rural area called Victorville, California, very not economically depressed in Southern California. And it was always the dream to go to LA and be a big time LA paralegal. Because who doesn't want to go to Los Angeles, right? And live the big life? Like, I knew that it wasn't going to be like the TV shows, but I thought it's true. I knew it wasn't going to be like the TV shows, but I thought that it would be a new experience, new things. So I moved towards LA in 2013 and I joined a virtual law firm. I was super excited because the law firm I had worked at before was still using typewriters. And
Oh
I know.
my.
So this, yeah, and this firm that I joined, they were a virtual firm. I was super excited. Um, wow, we're virtual. We have all this tech. It was like going from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. I was so pumped. And then it turned out they were like, no, 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 we're a virtual firm, but only attorneys can work from home. You guys have to be in office. And it was just the culture that was being built, and each business owner decides for themselves what kind of culture, what type of business they want to operate. What I did not know though is my 20-mile commute round trip. I think it was between 20 to 30 miles. Every day I'd sit in my car for 3 hours to get to the office, to work in the office, and then go back home, do it all again. I leave in the morning when it was still dark out. I drive into our parking structure, which is 5 floors underground, do my work, go back, drive out of the parking structure at the end of my day, and it's dark again. So I'm not seeing the sun. I'm not seeing the sun. I'm doing this grind, and one thing I really took away from this firm was that you can create a virtual law firm, that there are opportunities to create virtual business. And although I wasn't part of that, in the bigger sense, I knew that what this attorney had built for attorneys, I could build similarly for paralegals like me. And on top of that, I was tremendously burnt out. And working in LA, doing that 3 hour commute every day. And I knew that if I could just have somebody support me 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, something, I would not be burnt out. But there is 0% chance somebody was going to drive to that office in LA, spend the time in their car for 10 to 15 hours a week. So that's really what propelled me to leave that firm in 2017, or one of the many reasons that propelled me to leave in 2017 and launch Lawfecta, which was my purpose of helping my fellow paralegals become virtual paralegals, work from home, serve firms, and really only work with the clients and the attorneys that they wanted to work with. Um, and so I've met many back, and so back then we were a service-based business. Um, I always say like I'm one of the OGs back in 2017 that started a virtual paralegal agency. Back then, attorneys were not receptive to remote or virtual work. It was like pulling teeth when I got on the phone with them. Uh, but that's not to say 2020 changed everything. But we had
Right.
already built our infrastructure, we had already had our branding, building our marketing. And so when 2020 hit, we were absolutely flooded. And that's really what propelled us to being a huge virtual paralegal agency. And since then, I've really realized that for me, I am not a strong leader, with the sense that, and I can admit that, I don't have the capacity for it. I just don't have the capacity to run a huge team. And when we were upwards of 30 people strong, that's really when I started having my internal burnout. And when I really had to take a step back and reflect that I was really building this business for other people in a sense, and not what was making me happy every day. What's my joy? What makes me happy? And what's my zone of genius? And what can I focus on? And that really led me to take a step back from Lawfecta and say, how do I turn this business that is a success into now something that makes me happy because I'm not happy?
Mm.
And what ended up happening is I pivoted Lawfecta. And that's a hallmark of a great entrepreneur. I realize now because it was very, very difficult to pivot, but we are not service based at all. I had already built the tech that Lawfecta is built on to serve my team. Because when we had upwards of 30 teammates, attorneys coming to us and saying, this is what I need. It's too much manual labor for my team. So I built Lawfecta to be a directory that my teammates could go into. Attorneys can search by area of law, skill set, etc. And I realized the impact of that tech, opening it to other paralegals, opening it to other legal operational professionals that own their own business, is much more impactful, and helping others is really what brings me joy. And so that pivot has been very difficult and hard because I was service based for so long. We built it to seven figures, and I basically ripped that apart to pivot into where we are now and going in the direction we are now. But I can say I am much more happy every single day with the direction that, again, how to rip it down and really, really, really determine where my zone of genius truly flourishes and where I can make the most impact. And every single day, it's a new adventure. But as a business owner, we all know that that's part the name of the game. And we just need to seek out again, where do we find our joy? What gives us joy every day, and how do we get rid of the rest? And that's how I ended up here, guys.
No, I love that. I love your story. I love everything that about it. And it's funny that you say that you don't see yourself as a strong leader. I always, my mom always said that we are our biggest critics, right? And my dad always co-signed it. And we are, right? We are our biggest critic because I always saw, I was actually the opposite. I was raised as his only child, even though I do have a half sister, biologically. We weren't raised together. We were raised with each other's mom. And so she was there, she was present, I knew about her. It wasn't like this whole like, thing, but we never were raised together. So I was raised as an only child. And I had the opportunity to basically have the attention of both of my parents, which is pro and cons to everything, right? I didn't have to share my parents, I didn't have to share their attention. All the attention was on me, which built quite literally a lot of confidence. So I was always overly confident. I was always expressive. I was always who I am today, as far as you guys see me at face value. I never had the issue of going up and talking and speaking my mind. However, and I talk about this on a prior episode, which actually was one of our biggest downloads of the season so far. And I spoke about this because it was for me, it was intentional. Like, I want people to know that there's always a good and a bad to anything, any trait, any label, anything you identify yourself with. So my whole life, you have to be strong, you have to be independent, you have to be confident, you have to hold your own, you have to, hang with the boys just as much as you hang with the girls. And that was all I ever heard from basically birth, right? My dad was an entrepreneur for most of his career. My mom worked corporate, her whole entire career, retired, did the traditional route. And so I had the exposure of both, right? And so I kind of put those together. I kind of meshed them together and created what I call now my personality. And so I do talk about this in the episode, so please guys, I will link it into the episode because I don't want to get into it again. But it was that tug and pull that we were talking about where um do I put my hair up? Do I wear a suit? Do I have to wear pants? Can I wear a skirt? Can I wear a pencil skirt because it's longer, it's not too short, it's not too long? Can I wear heels? Do I wear flats? Do I do this? And it was this internal struggle of what kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of person or persona do I want to portray today? And I want to tell you this because this is part of the entrepreneurial journey, right? The more we find ourselves, quote unquote, for those of you not watching, the stronger our companies are built on, the stronger the foundation that we build upon it. And what that means in layman's terms is I am not the same person I was let's say even 3 years ago. Let's not even go that far. I have grown so much, and I was a strong, independent. I was not that person that would sit quiet in the meetings at all. I always made myself known as soon as I came into the door, and although that is admirable for most, it could be off-putting for others as well. And so it's the way that we carry ourselves, it's the healthy balance, and that's in turn is where we'll find the balance in our business, right? Because our business started almost similar. We offered freelance servicing for in a paralegal capacity for lawyers.
Mhm.
Our jurisdiction only allows us to work under the license of an attorney. So I was not able to freelance for, let's say, pro se litigants because of our jurisdiction. It is literally black and white. There is no gray area, and you will go to jail. That's it.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we're not going to deal with that. Aside from that, though, we understood the rules, we understood the regulations, and we ran with it for 3 to 4 years. Again, we scaled it, we did great, we were successful, no complaints. We were bringing in money every single month. I don't think we ever had a deficit throughout those 3 or 4 years. I never had a down cycle. And we were great. Again, much like you, we started in 2017. It was hard, it was like pulling teeth. So
Mhm.
we kind of sold our services a little different, more of like a let's be your part-time paralegal versus like a freelance contract. And so we did that. We sold it differently. We packaged it the same, but we just sold it differently. And we were able to sustain the company for 3 to 4 years, just freelance servicing paralegal services, which was great, worked out. But like you, I hit, my head against the wall and I said, nope, I want to go higher and I want to scale this. It wasn't that I wasn't happy, it was that I felt like I was doing the same exact thing that I was doing 20 years prior to that. I was always a paralegal. I started as a billing clerk, built myself up, and there I was still a litigating paralegal. And so I wanted to for this vision to look a little different. And then I started getting um these messages, emails, fan mail, because at that time we had the podcast already. So we had a little fan mail, we still do. And I started getting these messages of other paralegals wanting to do the same thing and how to build it and how to do this and how to do that and how did you do that? And so I was like, yeah, but they can't afford my services with the amount of money that they're making right now. So how can I actually make money off of this? Oh, I know. I'm going to go after the attorneys and have them flip the bill, and then I can train them and I can teach them how to be better paralegals and better caseload managers. And so that's where the birth of this new, what we were calling the Etta era, Etta Rosa LLC, that's where that birth, right? That's where that came from, where we started consulting. And we've been doing that for the last solid 3 years. And so it was a rough first year with the transitioning, telling our clients that we no longer offer this service at all. Like we
Mhm.
literally just demolished the service. And I started, hitting up my referrals, right? And sending them their way. And I have a really great paralegal firm that we collaborate often. And I sent them their way. And I said, hey, here, go to this firm. They're great. I can vouch for them. We've worked together. I know their work product. You'll be in good hands. And I started kind of like divvying up the workload. And little by little, I demolished the paralegal service to the point where we even erased it from our site, from our promotions, from our branding, like literally just demolished it. There is nowhere in our branding where you'll see paralegal services because we don't want to do that anymore. There's plenty of paralegal firms out there that are amazing, that have been around for
Mhm.
years, that can do a great job of that. But we wanted to open up a new avenue where I noticed that paralegal firms were doing basically for free. They were doing it as a paralegal capacity. And I was like, well, that's setting us up for failure. Let's actually train, let's actually consult as a paralegal consulting firm. Nobody had ever done that. All the paralegal firms out there were doing some shape, way, or form of process development, of consulting, whatever, but they were still doing it at a paralegal capacity. How do I
Mhm.
know this? I interviewed half of them. So hint, hint, if you want to go back to our 2017 episodes, you'll find out what firms are doing that to date. I find that they're still doing that. And you know what? Kudos to them. That's how they keep their doors open. That's how they've been around, but that's not what we want to do. We want to focus on what's important and we want to focus on our legal professionals that just honestly are looking for more, just don't know what to do or where to go. So then fast forward, I did start getting a lot more freelance paralegals, such as yourself and everybody else in my network. And I said, we need a platform. We need a foundation. We need something. So we built now the Limitless Paralegal Academy, which used to be just an event. It used to be an annual event where you would come in and you would get your quote unquote CLEs. You would learn almost everything you needed to know to build a business and continue the business and scale it and do all the things. And now it's like you have a whole academy. You don't even have to come to the event. No, I'm kidding. You should come to the event. You should come meet the instructors and everything else. But and it was something, it was a passion project of mine because again, I'm a stage builder. I guess I was on the Legal Tech Network and that's what they called me. So I've been called two things in this past year that I've never thought that of myself that way, which kind of brings me back to your point about not being a strong leader, is I've been called the fixer. I come in and I fix what's broken. And I've been called the stage builder because stages or the platforms that I've built have never been built. And so I, for one, didn't see myself either as like a leader of anything. I just said, I'm a builder. I'm going to build something, I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to pay the bills while doing it.
Mhm. Same,
Right? So it's
same.
like, and then everybody else makes you the expert, right? Everybody else makes you the leader or makes you X, Y, and Z. And so I love that. I love that we still don't consider ourselves 8 years in, we still don't consider ourselves as leaders. And even though I've been on almost every single major network out there, platform, thankfully. Thank you, Lord, for that. But I still am a student, right? That's what we were talking about before we got on camera and before we hit record. We were talking about that, about how I'm still a student. I still learn. I allocate 30 minutes to an hour every single day to just learning new information from people that are in places that I eventually will get to, not want to be, will get to, right? We have to change our narratives here. So I was reviewing our information and kind of like our pre-call information, and I love something. I'm going to quote you on this if you permit me, but
Okay.
I love how you say how you describe the company. We're a talent marketplace built for the modern legal world, connecting attorneys with skilled freelancers while elevating how legal businesses get discovered. Okay,
Yes.
poetic. I love that verbiage. That was amazing. Of course, we talk about building your niche and we talk about scalable businesses. We talk about obviously tech, legal tech. There's just no other option at this point, guys. You have to get on board with that. And
Yep.
you help them also streamline workflows and document automation, everything that we just talked about, right? And so let's talk about that. And I want to kind of hear your vision and the pros and cons because as we know, not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur. It takes a certain type of person. And so let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And tell me about maybe your biggest wins and your biggest lessons. I don't like calling them failures.
In the legal world, details win cases, and missing one can cost everything. That's why we're proud to be sponsored by a firm, Investigative Solutions. They partner with attorneys and legal teams to uncover the facts that matter most, from background investigations and witness locates to surveillance and asset searches. A firm, Investigative Solutions, is discreet, thorough, and laser-focused on supporting strong case strategy, so you can focus on advocating for your clients. If you need answers, not assumptions, visit affirmpi.com and schedule a free consultation. Affirm Investigative Solutions. Investigate before you litigate.
So I definitely can say that my biggest failure, I feel like, was being a weak leader. And I can talk so much on that because for many years I felt like I was a strong leader. I even did talks at ABA Tech Show about, managing a hybrid and remote teams and how to create culture and things of that nature. But I lost myself along the way because one thing I continuously say in leadership is there is no point where, well, I really always say there's nobody who can call themselves a good leader because every single day we should be if we are leading people, we should be educating ourselves on how we lead people because every person that we lead is completely different personalities, experiences, um, possible mental illnesses, possible neurodivergency, and how they may have conflict with clients, with teammates, etc. So constantly, the only people I think can say they're good leaders are the people who are constantly educating themselves on leadership and continuously trying to be better at that. And so my failure was I couldn't find the time to do it anymore. And I barely had time for self care, let alone educating myself on how to be better for my team. And so that was felt like a failure in myself because I created Lawfecta for my fellow paralegals because I always said I want to treat others the way that I always wanted to be treated in a firm. And so that really was the mission, the focus, the culture building. But I wasn't able with myself to maintain the capacity that I needed. And so for me, that does feel like a failure, but it's not something that's forever. It's something that I can say, I failed on that, but now I can work on building myself as a leader should I choose to. But I
Right.
also found that within that failure brought my biggest win, which is the pivot because I was able to see that again, being in leadership, I am an introvert through and through. If you were to look out this window, I live in the, the forest of Southern California. I am a hermit. I leave my house maybe every couple weeks to go to the grocery store. My partner's like, he's like, you got to see people. And I'm like, I see him on Zoom. Like, I'm good. But I realized that for myself, constant communication, constantly, having to be there for people, it's what really burnt me out in the business. And so for me, I had to look at it, where's my zone of genius? Where do I thrive? Where within this business does it bring me the most joy? How can I be my authentic self in this business instead of trying to be the version that I think I need to be? And that's where I really looked at my business and decided that I didn't want to offer services anymore. I didn't have the capacity of quality control with what other people are doing, and it was causing me stress. A lot of things kept me up at night, many, many days crying of out of frustration. And I decided that it was going to be difficult, but the biggest win I could do for myself um, is pivoting the company, taking that tech and using it for other people, other freelancers to gain that visibility of where they may be getting none online. Because in a way, our area with freelance paralegals, it is, I don't want to say it's becoming oversaturated, but there is an abundance than there were just 2 years ago.
Yes,
And to
I agree.
get back to kind of what you said on being entrepreneurship is hard. I knew that building the service-based business was hard. And I did that well because I had worked in business ops in law firms. So I had an idea of service-based business.
Yeah.
Removing services, pivoting completely into tech has been a huge learning curve. Because now it's talking with VC investors. Now it's, searching for a co-founder. Now it's, me sitting here coding, building tech, figuring out what features the community is going to want. But I feel the pivot and the reception is my biggest win. Most people are like, but you built a seven-figure service-based business. Is that the biggest win? No, because I was not happy. The dollar signs for me, doesn't define my happiness if I'm miserable. So finding my joy again was pivoting and being able to get on calls with my fellow paralegals, fellow legal operational professionals, and hearing their feedback about the platform, hearing how they're using it, hearing how it's impacting them. And that just brings me great joy because I know that this is just the start. We opened up Lawfecta as a directory January 28th of this year. So less than a year. And we have over almost 1,700 people on the platform. And that's a mix of
Get it.
attorneys. Yeah, it's a mix of attorneys and my fellow professionals And so we've realized that paralegals were so impactful in so many different ways. I think that a lot of times we don't even realize what type of knowledge we have that we can offer. And the last firm I was working at um, in LA, so this was 2017, but still, uh, I wasn't even making $30 an hour. And so,
In
and again,
California, which is like unheard of.
in SoCal, and I was the attorney's right-hand man, but that's just the name of the game. And so, when now where I'm at with all the experience I've acquired from starting that virtual paralegal business, moving into different aspects, I make 5 times that an hour. And so being able to take my knowledge and repurpose it into being able to pay my bills and to be compensated appropriately. Because you and I, we have very niche knowledge with what we've done, but I don't think other paralegals realize that they have knowledge that they can remove from being in office to sharing and getting paid substantially more. Obviously, there's a risk associated with that, and the more risk you take, the more benefit you can receive. And it's very, very scary. But there's individuals like you and me who are trying to give them these platforms, the education, the skill that they can not take the hard path like we went. Because I mean, we started
Exactly.
many, many, trailblazers over here took the hard path. There was no blueprint. There was nobody who could guide anybody on how to do this. It was just, all right, I'm here. I'm here. What do I do now? But now there's so much available to paralegals to educate themselves on how to start a business, on how to do all these various different things. But one thing I do want to say, and I think that one of the most powerful things that for myself that I did was through Lawfecta, getting back to that 2020 era, so many firms would contact us and say, I just let go my entire team because I don't know how to work remotely, but you guys seem like you guys do it, so can I just hire you? And that led us to being like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you can't work remotely with your in-office team and they're just working from home, how are you going to work with us? And so
Right.
that got us into really looking into firms' operational systems, their processes, and that got me into legal technology consulting and planning, implementing, and deploying legal tech. And out of everything I've done, out of everything I've seen, I feel like there's so much opportunity for freelance paralegals, legal operational professionals to learn various different legal technology and create a service offering. Niche down so incredibly down to so specific, and the more niche your knowledge, the higher dollar amount you can command, but
Hmm.
also being able to focus, because I used to focus on all legal tech. Now
Right.
I'm like this, and my main focus is document automation utilizing Gavel, which, if anybody hasn't heard of it, look up gavel.io. The owner, Dorna, amazing. Her and I were on a panel at ABA Tech Show back in 2021, I want to say. And that's really what got me into document automation is meeting her. But there's so much opportunity in these various niche skills that are becoming so much more in demand that not only again helps us create our own independent career and our own niche, but a lot of these things, a lot of implementing legal tech into firms is a further mission of access to justice. Because the
Right.
more firms can streamline, the more they can be efficient, the more they can lower their overhead and pass those savings on to potential clients that originally couldn't afford their services.
Right. No, and I'm totally on board with you on everything that you just said. Maybe one thing that I'll add, since you already gave us your takeaway about niching, I will add this. The future is freelance. And a good friend of mine, Deani Winters from Immigration Law, she is a lawyer. I was on her platform a couple years back in Tampa, Florida. And boy, was my mind blown because it was immigration law and it was a whole different ballgame for me. I was exposed to so many different types of legal professionals that I never knew existed because they were coming from global wide. And it was a beautiful experience in general. So if you haven't checked her out, this is a short little plug-in. No, I don't get paid for any of this, but I do want to support my fellow people. So definitely check her out, especially now with the current narrative. If you do need immigration, please, Deani Winters is amazing. I send her everybody I can. But anyways, before we wrap up here, I want to give you this. Freelance is the future. Eventually, our economic system will need to break down. And if you haven't studied economics and you don't know where, we stand in the economics, do so. I would start with Warren Buffett because all the rich people follow him to see what he's doing and then they just follow lead. So if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, please learn about him. It's very important for you, especially as an entrepreneur, to know who Warren Buffett is. Not only will you learn about investing, about the economics of our US system or even our global system, but he is just a wealth of knowledge. Definitely, I will suggest that you do that if you're looking into freelancing and entrepreneurship. Warren Buffett is everybody's following him. So whatever he does, everybody does. One thing you need to learn is how economics works. And right now, our economic system has to break in order for it to rebuild. It's just the lay of the land. We've done it before, recession, the Great Depression. Like it's happened. It's happened before, maybe not in our lifetime, depending on your age range, but it has happened. So don't be scared of it. All you have to do is be ahead of it. As I always say in this podcast, be proactive, not reactive. Look where the money is going. Look, follow the money. Follow the money. And you'll see exactly where your future will lie. So with that, thank you, Stacey, for being on our show, for taking time, for giving us your wealth of knowledge. And this is just a little tidbit of what she has to offer. Feel free to follow her, check out her website. All the links will be in the description below. And until next time, until justice is served, I'll be here. Bye, guys.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey Legal Pros, are you ready to stop playing small? The Limitless Paralegal Academy is officially open, offering powerhouse courses, real-world tools, and expert-led training to help you build the career and life you actually want. We're not stopping there. The Limitless Paralegal Tour is hitting the road. We're bringing the mindset shifts, career strategies, and community straight to your city with epic speakers, actionable sessions, and zero boring PowerPoints. This isn't your average CLE. This is your legal career reimagined. Join the Academy, meet us on tour, become the legal pro everyone remembers. Visit limitlessparalegalacademy.com to enroll and grab your ticket now. Be bold, be brilliant, but most importantly, be limitless.